Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Victory Never Sleeps. This evening we have another. A lot of them are first timers that are doing our presentations on our Asatru heroes, and today we're going to be joined by Justin Day, Folkbuilder out of Texas. Yeah, so that'll be very exciting. Trying to think any top of the show business to bring you guys up to speed on. As of yesterday, our first settler arrived at Sigerheim and is living on the property down there. We're very excited about that. Trying to think of other new things since last week. I spent pretty much all day on Monday out at High Desert Penitentiary in Susanville doing some prison ministry out there, and it was neat to meet the guys out there and be helpful to some folks trying to practice our faith while they're incarcerated. And so that was interesting. And we recently set up, and Nick's got a link for it, a donate link for if anybody wants to help with any of the prison ministry stuff. And that's basically going to go towards literature that can go to the chaplain for the chaplain to own and lend out as he sees fit. So it'll stay at the institution and be there for our folks trying to learn how to practice Asatru the correct way while they're incarcerated. So that's new since last we spoke. Also, guys, remember tonight, if you would like to donate to us, we appreciate that. And Entropy is a really good way to do that. We get your donations on Entropy, and we'd also, if you want to participate in Super Chat, if you want to have your question come to the front of the line, that's a way to do that also. But we really appreciate you guys, appreciate your generosity. We're being broadcast on Odyssey, Entropy, Twitter, VK, and YouTube right now. Excellent. We got our first one. Travis Bodish, one of our folk builders out in Colorado, doing amazing jobs. $10 US. We appreciate you, Travis. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA, hail victory, says Travis. Fantastic. So we're getting the show started off right. First and foremost, and we'll talk about Ulvir here in a second, but Justin, since it's your first time, could you tell people a little bit about, I guess first, a little bit about how you found Asatru and how you found the Asatru Folk Assembly?
Well, I guess like a lot of people, just, I like to say I wandered the desert of religion for almost 2 decades. I was raised kind of loosely Christian, Lutheran. My dad was kind of a Christian agnostic kind of country boy, and then my mom was Lutheran. So I was kind of raised with that. But, the older I got, just the more and more I started to see the holes in that ideology, and just the more I realized that I didn't really fit into that. So got started with meditation and Buddhism when I was like 18, continued exploring. I kind of went all over the spectrum. I was into Wicca for a while, and then as I kind of got into my 20s, I kind of fell away from religion in general and was very, how should I say, very agnostic atheist, just very into like quantum physics, theoretical physics, and ended up kind of, it all came full circle, realizing that many of those truths of science have been discovered by the ancients through our spirituality. But as for Asatru itself, yeah, just looking at videos online, as I was around 25, 26, I kind of started to realize the logical case behind being socially conservative. And I was looking to get into religion, kind of tried to get into Christianity again, because that was what I knew. That's what's popular. And just, again, it was a square peg into a round hole. Saw a lot of videos online. They were of you and Stephen McNallen saying a lot of really great things, being very proud of our heritage. And, just the more I heard about Asatru, the more it resonated with me. And so I went ahead and took the plunge and joined the AFA. And
about when was that?
That was a few years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago or so. So yeah, it was 6 months later. I was, just kind of lurked in the group chats, didn't really get involved. A lot of the events were kind of far away. I said, it's not really worth it. But, people kept telling me, they said, man, Justin, you got to come out to an event. There's nothing like it. And I said, it's I don't know. But finally, one of the guys, they came to my town, grabbed me by the scruff of my neck, threw me in the back of the car, and dragged me down to San Antonio. I'm in Dallas myself. And from the second I experienced my first bloat, when I felt that heart to hand to horn, I knew it was nothing I'd ever experienced. And I knew right then and there that I had to be at every single event from there on out. And I was so blown away. And I mean, 2-3 years later, here I am. I'm a folk builder, and this is my life. And I know this is my calling, and I want to be remembered for it. And yeah, this is my everything.
So, couple things just to acknowledge quick. Ashley, thank you very much. Ashley thinks I'm cool. I see over in the chat. I appreciate that. And Ronald Blake just donated $50 towards one of our elder Gothies and his wife were having some financial trouble, and we've got a donate link on our site about that. So he just threw $50 at that. We appreciate that a lot. Ronald is on here, I think, every week donating to us in a substantial way. And I just want you to know we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So Justin, can you tell people, and we're going to get to Ulvir here in just a second, I promise, but can you tell folks a little bit about the AFA in Texas, what we've got going on? And then Nick, if you could throw up an email address for Justin in case we got anybody listening or watching this in the Lone Star State that would like to be involved.
Yeah. So we right now we kind of are doing a circuit. As y'all probably know, Texas is a huge place. It's hard to cover all the ground, so we do our monthly bloats just like every other area. We rotate between. We'll go from the Dallas area to the next month we'll hit up the San Antonio, Austin area, and then next month we'll hit up the Houston area and kind of make that circle. I often throw local events here in Dallas myself, and there's lots of people who are looking to set up events like that. So if you're interested in meeting some great people and learning more about the Aussier and how you can deepen your connection with them, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and put in an application or shoot me an email if you have a question or ask me here.
All right. And without further ado, for anybody who has never heard of him before, can you tell us what you know about Asatru hero Olvir of Egg?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ulvir of Egg is one of our honored heroes, and he made his fame during the reign of a man named King Olaf II, known to the Catholics as Saint Olaf, not to be confused with Olaf Tryggvason, who is several generations before him. But he ruled. He was established as King Olaf. That is, was recognized formally as king in 1015 and was king of Norway until he fell at Stiklestad in 1030 AD. So what was going on was he was part of the forced conversions of Norway to Christianity. During the Viking Age and Europe in general, it was a very brutal time when kings, often in order to gain the monetary support of the Catholic Church, were basically murdering innocent people for refusing to convert to Catholicism, to Christianity. And the Trondheim area had been especially difficult in this regard. And this is where Olvir of Egg comes in, or Olvir of Egg, yeah, in, I guess, Old Norse. So word came to Olaf of some little parties that he was throwing where they were honoring their ancestors and the gods and goddesses that they had always known. And so he sent people to summon, they were called his bonds, Bondes, and they were kind of like representatives of the area, almost like it's basically people who report events to him, report the will of the people and such. So Olvir and several of the bonds came to stand before King Olaf the first time this was in the autumn of 1020. So I guess the event he would have been throwing would be something similar to what we celebrate in Asatru as winter finding today. So he was asked about, hey, what's going on? And he said, these are just kind of communal drinking rounds. People out here, they like to get together and feast and have fun, and there's nothing really religious about it. He was quoted as saying, "As to what may have been told you of the words which may have fallen from us, Throndheim people, in our drinking parties, men of understanding would take good care not to use such language, but I cannot hinder drunken or foolish people's talk." So, yeah, he said, that's not what's going on. Anybody who told you that, maybe they were drunk and they heard something that they misunderstood and just kind of played it off. Well, Olaf, he's not dumb. So he's like, all right, sounds suspicious. Don't let me hear about this again. And so he goes back to Throndheim. Well, didn't stop her. So again, the king heard talk of a Yule feast. There were great sacrifices, great drinking, great honoring, again, to the ancestors, to the gods, to the forces of nature. And he again summoned the bonds, and he was he was angry this time. He was not having it. Many of the bonds were afraid, and many of them did not come with Olvir, but Olvir was a brave man, and he stood before Olaf again. And he said to him, "You will feast and drinking feast wide around in the districts. The bonds do not prepare their feasts so sparingly, sire, that there is not much left over, which people consume long afterwards. At Maren, at one of the towns, there is a great farm with a large house on it and a great neighborhood all around it, and it is the great delight of the people to drink many together in company." So again, Olaf, he's not convinced. But he said, "Look, if I hear anything else about this, there's going to be trouble." So he sends him on his way. Well, he sends informants to kind of tag along and start listening in and see what's going on. And in the spring of 1021, there's attention that Olvir was gathering resources for an Ostara feast. And so this time the king didn't summon the bonds, he summoned his bailiff, whose name was Thoraldi, from Trondheim to Olvir, and he asked him. He said, "Listen, I'll make sure nothing happens to you, but you need to be honest with me. What's going on out there?" And he spilled the beans. So King Olaf sent, it was 5 ships and 300 men to capture Olvir. Olvir was executed, his property sacked, and many of his men were maimed, killed, driven from the country, their belongings appropriated by the king for his empire, and it was again really brutal. So but still he held his bravery. And the reason that I chose Olvir, he's kind of different from some of our other heroes. Many of our heroes, there's something, they led in these huge battles and they did these larger than life things. Olvir, and not to speak little of him. He was known as a great chieftain, a great Gothi, and a man of honor and prestige among his people. He was the owner of a great farming estate. But he, in many ways, was a normal guy, just like us, who had the courage to stand up for what he believed was right. And it seems like that's something that we see less and less of today as the air of political correctness has continued to envelop our culture. And, I think it's something that we need to bring back. It also reminds me of, because we here in the United States, we have so many great examples of people from the American Revolution who spoke their minds under pain of death. Many of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, for instance, were, they were killed, arrested, their homes burned, and all these terrible things so that we could have the freedom in this country to speak our minds. And I think we really need to remember that it's so important to a functioning society for us to speak the truth so that tyrannical rulers cannot establish their faulty viewpoints over the people, shall we say.
All right, well, there you have it. And you have you've accomplished a first. So this is our third episode on heroes. And in the questions line right now, we have 2.5 questions that are related to our hero today. So that is a first. In the previous episodes, we haven't had any questions about the hero that we were featuring. That said, not one of those questions. Gothi Trent East asks, Justin, is there a god or goddess you feel closest to? And if so, why?
Well, I guess when I started out, much like many men, Odin and Thor were the first gods that I identified with, and I still do love them. They're such great examples of how we can live our lives. I've always very strongly identified with Odin because he's known for his bravery, but he's also known for his wisdom. And as someone who is, I consider myself a lifelong learner, and that's so important. He also practiced the esoteric, and he's just a great example of a leader. But as I became a leader myself, and I've kind of grown into this position, I've grown closer to Tyr because I have learned more about the selfless service and self-sacrifice that goes into being a leader. And really, all of the gods and goddesses I've cultivated a much closer relationship with, because as a spiritual leader, I have to work with people who very closely identify with those gods and goddesses. And through them, I am able to build a connection with them and learn more about them as people.
Sounds good. All right, and our half-related question from Katla. Okay, serious egg question. Favorite way to eat your eggs? What is your favorite egg preparation, Justin?
Scrambled with cheese and breakfast sausage.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go off the res here and not really a breakfast egg. Deviled eggs. I love me some deviled eggs. I can eat an infinite quantity of deviled eggs. The serving is whatever quantity finds itself in front of me. That's going to be my favorite. From Sarah, where does the egg part of his name come from? A town, a family name? Maybe it's a translation. Justin, enlighten us.
It comes from, that was the name of his farming estate. I'm not sure if that was named after the region, but that's what he was known as, Olvir of the Egg or Eggya farming estate.
There you have it. Katie J asks, good evening, gentlemen. Which of the 9 noble virtues would you say that this hero exemplifies the most? What are your thoughts, Justin?
Courage.
I think that sounds solid. It's funny because when you overthink it, you always find, many of the virtues that kind of overlap. I was going to say courage, but I was torn on fidelity and perseverance as well. One of the things that is powerful to me is he took his responsibility seriously as, and this was kind of a thing, as one of the more well-to-do people in his area. It was his job to take on the responsibility of making sure our gods were worshiped and of leading his people in our religion. And this was a time it would be very, very easy for him to give that up and go along and get along and been much, much safer. But he took that responsibility very seriously. And not only did he take it seriously to arrange for the sacrifices and the feasts, but to then go and stand before the king in enemy territory and show his face representing the people. That certainly exemplifies the courage that Justin talked about, but also it's part of his fidelity to our gods and his perseverance in continuing our faith even when it was outlawed. So that's my thoughts on that. Dan Mason, our folk builder from Maine, asks, what is your favorite part of being a folk builder, Justin?
Being able to help people. Whether it's being able to counsel people through times of hardship, maybe grief, or maybe they are in between jobs, or they're experiencing a crisis of faith. Maybe they have a problem with drug abuse, or there's so many things that I've encountered being a folk builder that I've been able to help people with, and it's kind of hackneyed the old saying that service is the quickest way to happiness, and I never believed that until I started doing it, and it's addictive being able to help people, and and not just individuals, being able to lead community service. It makes you, and especially in addition to the people that you get involved in those community service projects, that you're taking responsibility for your environment, whether you're leading a park cleanup or a food drive or whatever it may be. And it's fantastic. Give it a try.
So we got an important reminder over in the chat. Everybody who's listening to this on whatever platform it's on, like it, subscribe to it, assuming that you do like it. If you're here and you enjoy what we're doing tonight, please help us bump up those algorithms. Like it, share it, whatever you can do on the platform that you're on. But those things do factor in, and they help us pop up more frequently for people and put us in front of the eyes and ears of more of our folk that perhaps would enjoy hearing this or perhaps need to hear it. Question from Ryan O'Ryan Wotenson. In what saga is this hero you're talking about in? Justin, can you tell him?
Yes, that is the Heimskringla, the saga of the kings of Norway.
And this is in King Olaf's saga, correct? In the Heimskringla?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you guys haven't read that, that was one of my... you know what? That was my first bit of our lore that I read. And I read that right when I was on the cusp of, just leaving Christianity, but I didn't fully find Asatru yet. And so I read the Heimskringla. And it's awesome. It's a great work of history, and it's a really good collection of sagas. And I think it's a really good place to start for a lot of folks if you do have an interest in history. From Katla, also, Justin, Can you tell us about a powerful spiritual or magical experience that you've had?
Yeah, every time I Galder is a magical experience. That's something that resonated with me very strongly from the moment that I found this faith, was the wisdom of the runes and the ability to use resonance to change what's inside of you, be it your body, your mind, and your spirit, or your inner guard, as well as your outer guard. You're projecting those vibrations into the world. Often I try to Galder every day, and often I'll have incredible visions of maybe things that should happen, maybe things that I want to make happen, maybe things that will happen. There have been a couple times that I think that I may have made contact with spiritual beings. I don't like to get too serious about that, but the way I take it is, was it real? Well, it was a real experience, and those experiences meant a lot to me, and they helped guide my actions and my thoughts. So I put a lot of stead into it, but that's going to be up to the individual. But yeah, as the runes go, study them. They'll do you right.
All right, we got a $3 donation from Michael. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. Hail Matt, hail Justin, hail the gods, hail our Volk. I wish I could give more, but anyway, I do appreciate the work you do. Hey, that counts. $3 is $3, and it's 3 more than we had. We appreciate it a lot, and thank you for that, and thank you for the appreciation of what we're doing. It's good to have you here. Good to have you in the audience. Okay, from Jason Gallagher, our folk builder coordinator. Justin, tell us about your awesome kindred.
Our kindred here in Texas is called Frither Folk Kindred, and it is we've been rolling since it was around the time that I started getting involved with things. I believe it was January of 2020. I believe is when we were officially incorporated as a well, not incorporated legally, not to confuse, don't say that, but we became an official AFA kindred. And yeah, it's been really special to me, and I hope to serve it well.
Good deal. All right, so another question for you, Justin, this time from Travis, our folk builder in Colorado. What's your favorite genre of music?
First off, let me say I am an absolute nerd when it comes to music. I don't pay for any subscriptions other than Audible and Spotify. And Spotify, I pay for that because I just love music so much. Going right back into the concept of resonance, it's such a powerful thing. I grew up on heavy metal. My 2 older sisters was really into it, and I thought she was like the coolest person on earth. And she got me really into Metallica, Pantera, Guns N' Roses, a lot of thrash metal, power metal, hair metal. And as I got older, I just continued to expand my taste in different types of music. But these days, folk metal is my absolute favorite. In particular, Elevati. They are a Gaulish folk metal band from Switzerland. And I had the pleasure of seeing them in their North American tour a few weeks ago. Really cool. I guess what I like about folk metal is, especially Elevati in particular, they have an amazing ability to blend the ancestral instruments of our folk with the newer instruments that people often associate with our folk. So, it's a really wild thing when you first hear it. It hits your ear kind of like, wait, what is this? But when you hear a hurdy-gurdy and a tagelharpa and nyckelharpa combined with, an amplified electric guitar, But it strikes this incredible balance the more you listen to it, and it's almost this outplaying of like the divine masculine and divine feminine. Another great thing about them is they can do some songs that are pure folk. You wouldn't even know they were a heavy metal band. And then they do some songs they're so hard that it'll leave your hair frizzed up. So, yeah, folk metal is my final answer.
There you have it. So we've got a question from our producer, Nick. He wants to know, do we fault Ulvir for lying about their embracing of their culture and faith in the first time that he was summoned in front of Olaf? No, Nick, we don't. And that's one of the things about Asatru that's not comfortable for some people. Everything's not black and white, and everything's not thou shalt and thou shalt not. Context matters. And there's a way that you treat friends, and there's a way that you treat enemies. One of the things that the Havamal advises when we're dealing with enemies or people that aren't trustworthy and that we don't trust. No, thank you. Sorry, my daughter's trying to feed me something. If you're dealing with folks that you don't trust and that are dishonest, to exchange lie for lie and to learn how to be dishonest with people being dishonest to you. That's not a advice to be a dishonest person in general, but it does say that your tactics have to fit your situation. And I think that's really important to be able to internalize and use wisdom and discretion on when to exercise that or not. Follow-up question to your musical question. What do you think of Amon Amarth?
I love him. Love Amon Amarth. They're a little harder on the vocals than I enjoy. I prefer a growl over a little bit lighter growl than what they do, but their electric guitar is outstanding. Ausgezeichnet. I would love to see them. Would love to see them live. I may going to see them when they come through here at Dallas when they're touring with Ghost. We'll see how the runes fall.
All right. Also, okay, so we knew this was gonna come up. Return of the Nolder asks, also 5 favorite books of any type. Justin, what are your five favorite books? Any type of books?
Okay, well, if we're gonna go fiction, I've always really enjoyed stories about nature and animals. Kind of background about me. I grew up in Boy Scouts really heavily when I was young. Ended up going to school to get my degree in environmental science. I absolutely love nature, and it was during my camping trips in Boy Scouts I first discovered that the forest was where I felt most in touch with the divine. Having said that, I would say White Fang by Jack London is an absolute classic. I love that it's told from the perspective of the wolf, and he refers to humans as the gods. It was a very interesting thought experiment for me. I think I first read it in middle school. Where the Red Fern Grows, another really great book about a boy who gets two hunting dogs and traps raccoons in the early 1900s out in the Ozarks.
It's a sad book.
In the end, yeah, but a good one. It's worth the read. The Count of Monte Cristo is one I've loved the movie since I was a kid. Absolutely fantastic movie, and now I'm reading the book, and it's even better. Highly recommend both of them. The Chronicles of Narnia was another really good one. Really good series that I loved as a kid. Lord of the Flies, really liked that one. Kind of shows the darker side of men when you get tyrannical leaders in charge. And Starship Troopers. Shout out to Folkbuilder Mike Joyner. Actually sent me a copy of that. Appreciate it, Mike. Really great book. Highly recommend. Anybody who likes sci-fi and kind of gets into like philosophy and even political science to an extent. It's a really interesting thought experiment. As far as nonfiction, I'm going to go. Actually, when I first joined the AFA, Matt here actually recommended me that I read the biography of King Edward I, and I ended up reading all the way through King Edward III. Thought it was a really great story, just of all the crazy thing that royal family went through. That and Julius Evola. I really like his writings on the esoteric. Has really helped me in kind of a tangential way understand the runes.
All right. Well, there you go. For Matt and Justin, this is coming from Gothi Daniel Young. Do you think or believe the runes are sentient? What are your thoughts, Justin?
Well, that's a philosophical question. I guess it depends on what you mean by sentient. Because I mean, all beings are made of energy at the end of the day, both according to many of our ancient spiritual practices as well as modern quantum and theoretical physics. And I mean, the runes in their, at least certainly in their resonance, are energy. So if we're talking about an energy that has a force of its own, it's definitely that. Maybe they do. I know that there have been times that, I've been confused or frustrated about a certain set of circumstances I'll be going through, and I'll actually see a rune in something, whether it's in, the veins of a leaf or a design in a hotel lobby, and it'll set me straight, so maybe.
All right. I don't think the runes are sentient, but what I think the runes are is a very useful medium for sentient things to speak through. And I was just explaining this when I was at the prison the other day with the runes. I think that the runes are, at times, perhaps our gods speak to us through the runes. Certainly, I think our ancestors speak to us through the runes. I think your Thilgia can speak to you through the runes. I think parts of yourself, I think you speak to you through the runes. I think the runes in a very fundamental way work as a lens that help you to see the world through a certain prism, through a certain perspective. And they help very much that way to clarify things in your life. And I think a lot of that comes from within, whereas I absolutely believe some of it comes from without, but a lot of it comes from within. So I think the runes are a good medium for sentience to speak through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The runes are really great, to add on to what you're saying, that they're a really great portal to the subconscious. When you galder and practice mindfulness meditation to a point where you reach a certain point of lucidity. And anybody who has practiced meditation will know what I'm talking about, where you start to notice things in the world that you didn't notice before, where your thoughts quiet and you achieve a new level of calm and knowledge of yourself. Yeah, and if you haven't, definitely give it a shot.
All right. Next question and last question. So we need some more questions, guys. Next question is, what sort of parallels would you draw between Ulvir and the AFA in the modern world? What are your thoughts on that, Justin?
Don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe. It's really easy to duck questions and things like that when when controversial topics come up, and don't get me wrong, you should definitely pick your spots, but when it comes to, you know, what you believe, especially for somebody like me who, you know, the AFA is the core of my life. Everything in my life is centered around this faith, and when you leave that important of a part of yourself out of what other people perceive your personality as, it makes you seem hollow, number one. And then, you know, if, let's say people, you know, find out that you're a member of the AFA and you have never spoken about this before, they're going to be kind of scratching their head like, you know, why didn't you tell us, you know, about this? You've been keeping this big secret, you know, why is this a secret? You know, what are you really doing? And it gives people leaves a bad taste in their mouth rather than, and as a matter of fact, you know, in my experience, when you're just open with people are a lot more understanding than I guess the media and the internet would give you credit for. The vast majority of people I've spoken to about my spiritual beliefs, when you tell them in the right way, is, you know, they're usually just anywhere from, oh, you know, that's interesting, could you tell me more about that? Or, yeah, you know, I disagree with you, but, you know, everybody's got their beliefs. So
yeah, one thing I think is particularly important in the example of Ulvir's life is as far as it relates to now, people, there's kind of an inverse relationship to this now. When people have very little to lose, that's when they're the most courageous. The folks that don't have a lot going on well in their life, that don't have, you know, lands and fortune and success, are the ones most likely to stand up for our faith. It's very difficult and it's rare that rich people and successful people and people who have careers and, you know, seemingly a lot to lose are willing to step forward. But it's precisely those people that it's their job. When you have success, when you've been blessed, when things have worked out well for you in your life, it's your job to be a leader for your folk and to help the rest of your folk to take that responsibility. That was Olvir's job as the rich guy in the community that owned the farm, that owned the means, to make sure that the gods were worshipped and that he was representing the people when he had to go to the assembly and speak before the king. Very often now people use as an excuse, and it's way easier said than done. Please don't get me wrong. I know it's very difficult, but it's why it's so admirable what Ulvir was able to do. Is people are scared. They don't want to stand up. They don't want to lose their livelihood. They don't want to lose their career. They don't want to lose, all of the blessings that they've been given in life. They're scared to lose them. So they become, their blessings become a prison of sorts that keeps them from feeling free to stand up for the things they believe in. And I think Ulvir is a really strong example of, with money and with success and with power and affluence comes a responsibility to represent your people, to speak for those that don't have a voice, to make sure that that the gods are taken care of. You notice that people who make, so I've noticed this, and this doesn't speak for everybody, certainly, but in the AFA, oftentimes the people with the least to give are the most generous and willing to give, very large percentages of what they have. But it's the people that are very successful that oftentimes give very little and give a much smaller percent of the things that they have. And I think that's interesting. And Ulvir is a powerful example in how to do that right, I think. We have a question from Folkbuilder Shay McCurdy from Oklahoma. What skills, talents, or trades do you wield?
Well,
to the table, Justin.
Well, I I've done a lot of different stuff in my life. I'd say probably one of the most unique ones was my father was a horse trainer, a journeyman farrier, which is someone who puts the shoes on a horse's hoof. He nails them on there, and a welder and a blacksmith. So I grew up apprenticing with him, and I didn't know how lucky I was, man. It was such a coming of age experience, challenging myself against these, beautiful, majestic animals. It's like my dad always used to say, a horse is an animal, a 2,000-pound animal with the strength of 10 men and the mentality of a 2-year-old child. And learning to work with an animal make those animals my companions and learn from them was such a special experience. I did that. I had the pleasure of working at a store that specialized in aquarium service and saltwater coral. And that was incredible, getting to see so many just rare and strange sea creatures and just this incredible form of life. It's like, wait, I thought these were plants. Wait, corals aren't plants? No, they're animals. They're actually animals, believe it or not, but they do photosynthesize. And it's just learning to, again, just getting myself involved with nature in so many ways has been so rewarding. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but get out there in the woods, get out there and work with animals and experience it for yourself if you haven't.
There you go. That's really unique. Your dad being a farrier, that's a cool and unique skill set that is, much more rare to come by now and liable to be even more so in the future. Whit and Brandy Callahan asks, Justin and Ulvir of Egg, could you both tell us about a moment when you feel that you have achieved victory? Justin, tell us about a moment where you felt victorious.
When I was oath as the Folkbuilder at the Feast of the Einarjar, about 6 months ago now or so, in this last November, it was really great to see all my hard work recognized, and not just recognized, but recognized by some of the people that I respect and admire the most.
Well, I think that's a good one. I'm proud and happy I was there to be there for that moment of you being victorious. Shoot, Brandy, it's hard. I've been very, very fortunate. One big moment that I felt was really victorious was when we finally closed on Thorshof. We got Odenshof at the tail end of Steve McNallen's administration. And one of the big things jumping in that was kind of a proving ground of, could I fill the shoes? Could I be effective as Ulvir of Egg? Was, can we keep this ball rolling? And so it was really important, but it was kind of a behind the scenes victory when we were able to pay off Odenshof. And that was really important to me. But the big public victory was, can Matt get us a Hoff? And if so, how fast can he get us a Hoff? And anybody who was there during the time, we had a number of things kind of fall through and not work out the way we wanted to. And, it was definitely, there was some struggling involved to get Thorshof. And we overcame it. We were able to do it. There were so many people who contributed to that victory. I don't want to lessen that, but that was my first Hoff. I was able to be a part of, to take the lead and make it happen. And that meant and still means a lot to me and will always have a very special place in my heart. And that was a moment that I felt very blessed with victory. Um, so Nick asks, our producer Nick, so there's not a folk builder everywhere. Can members that don't have the time and energy to take on all the responsibilities of folk buildings still host something local to them? And how could we help them with that? Well, absolutely. So not only can folks do that, we would really love to see folks do that. So we've got way better folk builder coverage now than we've ever had, but Midgard is a big place and much more likely to have somebody very close to you now than you have been in days past. But so we need all the help we can get to do this. And if we have members somewhere and you want to host something and see something happen in your area, a couple of things. First, every place that we have that's all right. So trying to get the best way to start this. One thing that when you just start to be an adult and you move out to your own place, who buys dish soap? Who buys aspirin? You just go in the cabinet and there's aspirin when you're a kid. Well, somebody has to actually go do those things, and you take for granted that it's your parents that do it. In the AFA, people just assume we've got stuff everywhere. And they assume when they show up that, I'm sitting out here in Nevada waving a magic wand and, a community erupts somewhere. And I really wish I had the power to do that. That would be awesome. We would be doing some spectacular things if I could. But realistically, it takes regular folks who are members who see a need and decide, hey, I want to step up and make this happen. And that comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes, certainly with our folk builders. But even if we don't have that hey, I'm a member, is there anything going on near me? Well, no, there's not. The next question you should ask is, well, are there members near me? And your folk builder, however far away they are, or me, I can tell you if you got folks next to you. And if they've clicked the referral box, I can give you their contact info. And I can help. And when I say the AFA in general, any of our folk builders, any of our Gothar and myself can help you figure out what to do. I think people, if they go to one of our larger events, or they go to a HOF and they see, something spectacular, they assume that their get together that they do, needs to be at that level, and it doesn't. When I started folk building in Anchorage, Alaska, and what I always really loved to do was to have people in my home and to have a meal and, do that. So I still do that to this day, but that's my folk building fundamentals. But I was doing this before I was officially a folk builder, is invite people over and have a meal, have a potluck. So it's not a big expense or hardship on you. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay too. You can have a park moot, you can have a pub moot. What I say to anybody, and I say this to all the new folk builders when I talk to them as well, don't start out investing a lot into it, because that's going to build frustration if it doesn't work out that first time. And the unfortunate truth is sometimes it takes several times before it catches on. But when it's consistent, when it does, it snowballs. Amazing things happen. But I would say this, if you want stuff to happen in your area and there's no folk builder, get with your local folk builder and have them help you host something, and host a pub moot at a place you like to go, or at a restaurant you like to go to. If you got a girlfriend, a wife, bring them with you, and worst case scenario, nobody shows up and you guys have a nice dinner at a place you like. And best case scenario, a bunch of people show up and you have a successful moot and you take a picture, you guys still eat a dinner that you like at a place you like, and then you've got momentum for that next month that you try. So, and that goes for anything. It doesn't have to look like that. You can have a bowling moot, you can play pool, you can go for a hike, you can have a moot with your kids at a park where they can play on the equipment. A lot of options. But willingness to step up and want to try, that's the big thing. And reach out to your folk builder. They'd love to help you. So that's what I got to say in that regard. Folk builder Shay McCurdy asks, what is the best place, time, fair, festival to visit your great state. So, Justin, if anybody wants to visit Texas, when should they go and what should they go for?
Um, well, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll just tease it right now. Well, first of all, let me say if you have the opportunity to go to a midsummer celebration, the one at Odenshof is going to be the biggest, so don't miss out on that. But if you can't make it out there, we're planning. I'm cooking up a pretty fun little bloat that we're going to have out on the water for this midsummer. So come on out for that. I also really enjoy our Thora bloat. Being in Texas, it's not a super harsh winter most of the time, and we play our games of strength, everything from Indian leg wrestling to arm wrestling to you name it. You just got to come out to see it. A lot of times we have a lot of the Oklahoma AFA guys out from up north, and we make a big event of it. So would love to see that grow in the future, and yeah, I'd love to have everybody's support and see some new faces.
Excellent. From Gothi Daniel Young, as a folk builder, what has challenged you the most, and how do you overcome them?
Well, there's been a couple of things. I guess I mentioned earlier, learning to work with people who are different from me has been challenging, but it's also been a real privilege because I've learned a lot from it. And like I was saying, I have learned to connect to people who are different from me by connecting with them through our gods and goddesses. There's that, and then there's, how should I put it? Speaking loud and proud from your heart. So when I came to my first event, I kind of had an idea of what Sumbul was going to be. So I had kind of prepared this like poem that I was going to say, but the more Sumbuls and bloats that I attended, the more I began to. The only way I can put it, and it might sound a little bit campy, but a lot of times I'll kind of close my eyes and gather myself before I do it and open myself up to the energies of the universe and let the gods and goddesses speak through me. I just open my mouth and allow what's in my heart and spirit to flow out. And learning to do that has been very challenging in the beginning, but it's been very rewarding as well.
All right. So Mary Minchell, one of our members out here in the Las Vegas area, asks, Justin, was your father a thoroughbred trainer?
He trained all kinds of horses. Our most common that we encountered were quarter horses, simply because of their versatility. But yeah, I distinctly remember we trained some thoroughbreds, trained paint horses, trained palominos, even did some training of the big draft horses. As a matter of fact, when I was 14, I got to accompany my father on several jobs when he was hired. We did their horses, their hooves and everything, with their special made big shoes for the draft horses. And then we took a cutting torch and we torched tungsten carbide cleats onto the bottom so that when they were walking around the city, they would dig into the cement. And then it was such an incredible experience. I got to accompany my father while he took people on carriage rides through downtown Dallas during the Christmas time. And I even got to drive them myself a couple times. And that was fantastic.
That sounds awesome. Draft horses are amazing to me. They always have been. And they're beautiful animals, but just the power that those horses have and seeing those stand next to, other breeds of horses has always been cool. I used to love to see that at the state fair in Alaska when I was growing up. So from folk builder Dan Mason in Maine, what would you say to folks who are considering joining the AFA but are having trouble actually clicking the join button on the website? What would you say to them, Justin?
So if you're considering joining the AFA, I would ask why. I kind of farkled on the subject for a little while, but once I actually got involved and started speaking to people, and I can understand it, it can be a little intimidating at first, speaking to people you don't know when you're kind of a newcomer to the spirituality. But man, just about everybody I've talked to has been very welcoming, very, very willing to teach and, help me grow with them. And that's more than anything, that's what Asatru as a community, as a kindred is on, being a part of a kindred is all about, is growth, helping each other to grow and learn lessons and to support each other through our hardships. So, you don't want to miss out on this, on being part of a strong community. So go apply today.
It all depends on what their hang up is, but at the end of the day, that's the biggest step, is the step from stasis to action, from the friction of you being glued to your couch to you standing up and going to your front door. That's the greatest distance that there is. And I know a lot of people are hesitant, and you think, one of these days, or, maybe if I know a little bit more, or maybe once I, maybe whenever. Tomorrow is not promised. And there's people who are part of something and they're not. There's people who are part of something and there's people who are not. Asatru isn't about belief. It's about action. I just can't say this enough. People mistakenly translate Asatru as belief in the gods, but it doesn't mean that. It means troth with. It means loyalty to the gods. Loyalty is an action. It's not an idea. It's not a concept. The difference between joining and not joining is the difference between being a part of what we're all doing together and sharing in our victories, and being a spectator and being a fan. And those two things are world apart. Now, I appreciate all of our fans. I appreciate everyone out there who, clicks like and, donates maybe, and, gives us good wishes. I appreciate that. But being part of our family, being tied to us, being connected by Haminya to the Asatru Folk Assembly and what we do, makes you a part of something that's amazing and special. It makes you an active, living part of this family and what we're doing. And, I never hear from people that they wish they never would have joined us, or they're sorry they joined us, or, this sucks. What I hear is, man, I wish I would have known about you guys a long time ago. Man, I should have joined years ago. I don't know why I didn't. I understand it sounds self-serving on this podcast or this YouTube program, but I promise you, I hear that several times a month. It's a really wonderful thing to do, and it's certainly, it's the best thing I've done in my life. So yeah, go ahead and click join, take a chance, roll the dice, be part of something. Okay, so here is also from Nick, our producer. Shay says that you can sing. Yeah, you got to show us. So apparently, people want to hear you sing a few bars.
They want to hear me sing.
I don't know if they do. Nick does. It sounds like.
Okay, I guess I could sing a little clip. I haven't practiced or anything.
Okay, I'm going to watch. And if viewers go down next week because of this, we're going to have words.
Okay, so, ships on vigor, the waves are skimming barren summits to the verdant plains. Each horizon is a new beginning, rise and reign. Far from the fjords and the ice-cold currents, ravens soar over new frontiers, songs and sagas of a fate determined, shields and spears. Vows of favor or the thrill of plunder, pulled together for the clan and kin. Clack of hammers and the crash of thunder, pound within. Ah, the echoes of eternity. Ah, Valhalla calling me.
Thank you for that. That wasn't half bad.
Thank you.
All right. So, our next question from Katla: how far are we with Njordhof getting paid off? All right. So, for those of you that do not know, got Njordhof in White Springs, Florida. Beautiful Njordhof. It's fantastic. People down there put a lot of love into it. It was our most expensive Hof so far because Florida is a very popular place for people to be buying right now. They have been pillars of freedom down there, so a lot of people are wanting to move to Florida. The total cost all in for Njordhof is $245,000. As of today, we still owe $112,000 and change. That's a huge chunk in a very short amount of time. You guys and your generosity has been amazing. Last time I ran numbers, it was about $102 per AFA member. If you guys paid that, we would immediately have that Hof paid off. But I appreciate anybody who has. And mentioning that figure, a number of people just stepped up and did when I asked. So I appreciate that a lot. Getting very close. Another side thing, because of various persecution, we've had to find alternative ways to get lending. And we've had two people, one an AFA member and another who wasn't a member but shares values with us, who are willing to lend us some money and make this happen. And I really appreciate that. So we had two separate loans taken out in order to get Njordhof. And I'm proud to say that as of this last month, we have paid off one of those loans. So now we only have one loan remaining on it. And sounds like a big number, but it's much less than half of what that original chunk was. And we're only, I got a math, but we're only, 8 or 9 months into it. So this has been fantastic. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who's been generous. So you guys know that's the first step in us getting Phrasehof. Phrasehof is going to be our next Hof, and it's going to be in Eastern Ohio, with the slightest of chances that it could be in Western Pennsylvania. But I think Eastern Ohio is the safer bet. We're working really hard to make that happen. And the first thing that we got to do is get out from under Njordhof, and then we can worry about starting to make Phrasehof happen. But we're excited. We got a lot of momentum, and you guys have been very generous. We appreciate it. So Vladimir says, greetings, friends. I apologize for intruding off topic, but gentlemen, where can a Slavic German Gentile get a closer look at your movement? Vladimir, thank you. No apologies necessary. We go wherever the questions take us on this program. You want to go to our website, www.runestone.org. But I'm going to have Nick throw up the sites for each of our Hofs, depending on where you're located, or look at all of them if you'd like. Each of our Hofs has their own website. What I would say, if you want, so those are good places to read about stuff we do and get an idea of scheduling on when and where events are and things of that nature. But if you want to kind of see and get a feel for what we're about and what we do, I don't know where you're watching us right now, but our YouTube channel is where you want to go, and you can find all of our videos, all of these that we do once a week. You can find little slideshows we make of all the different events that the national and regional events we host throughout the year. And then every quarter and certainly every year, I put out a little video that's basically a slideshow of all the different, all the different little gatherings that we do. And, any given weekend, we've got those going on across the country. So got a lot of really cool things going on that we'd love to show off to you. The other thing is each of those websites has contact information. So please feel free to ask any of our Gothar, any of our folk builders, anything you might be curious about. We'd love to help. And you can always email me, Matt Flavel at runestone.org. And I'd be happy to help as well. So no, thanks for asking. And I encourage you to go to any of those locations. So James asks, folk builder James Alt in Wisconsin asks, Justin, coming to LC Fest next month?
No, I don't have any plans to, but yeah, if you go ahead and shoot me some information, I can take a look at it and see if I can work it into my plans.
All right, there you have it. So I'm sure James will let you know the details. Anybody else that's coming up next month? Nick can throw up the dates for you here. I believe it's the 20-something of next month in Wisconsin. We're going to have our third annual celebration of Folk Mother Elsie Christensen, and James Alt and his wife host that, and they do an amazing job. So if you guys can get up there, and they have a Wisconsin fish boil all the time, and that's absolutely delicious, and I'm looking forward to that. I'd love to see you guys there. I'll be up there for it. So yeah, consider doing that. Next question from Hugh Manipulation Nation. It's good to see you on here, by the way. Do you guys drink Bud Light? No, I don't drink Bud Light. It's gross. And let me tell you a couple of few things. So obviously I get where the question comes from right now. And no, I don't want to support them with their disgusting support of mental illness. But that said, Bud Light's not good anyways. Bud Light, I would have a very hard time getting any benefit out of Bud Light. I will tell you this. Bud Light, I'm not convinced there's alcohol that's actually in Bud Light. It is very similar to drinking murky water. Not a fan. Justin, do you drink Bud Light?
I do not.
Good. Let's let's hope that our viewers have better taste in their malted beverages than to drink Bud Light. Jared Williams asks, is there a certain point of knowledge I should have before I get really connected, or is this counterintuitive, and should I just reach out and ask to be taught more? Absolutely the second. Okay, and I think as a follow-up to this question, like a second line to the question, I just don't want to be a burden. First, you're not a burden. That's what so many of us are here for. One thing that a lot of us, this is such a tendency of our people to do, and I understand that. People like to wait and make perfect the enemy of good. So they imagine at some point, sometime down the road will be the right time, but not today. And it reminds me of this, this bar I used to work at, it says free beers tomorrow on this neon sign. And guess what? No matter what day you come in there, it says free beer tomorrow. Always tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And today never really happens. And that's one of the things. If you put it off, you can put it off forever. There is no perfect time. It's great to get as much knowledge as you can, but there's two different kinds of knowledge. There's book learning, and that's really important. We all love to do that. But there's also experiential knowledge. There's the knowledge you get from participating, from being part of something, from learning from people that actually practice our faith, and the knowledge you get from building a relationship with our gods. Today is absolutely the right time for you to join, and you can learn as you go. I believe very strongly, And we're fortunate we have the information that we have. But I believe very strongly if all of that was taken from us and we find ourselves, something happened and our people awoke, 1,000 years from now with no records, no history, none of the things that we take for granted, our gods are still our gods. They would still make themselves known to us, and we would still be true and loyal to them, and we would still build a relationship to them. We may lose all these stories of the past, but we would build stories in the future. So no, there's no certain point of knowledge that you need. All you need is to want to get involved and want to build a relationship with our gods. So anytime you can do that is the right time for you to join. And looks like the last question of the night, unless we get something else that pops up. What states will be in the Freeshof district, says Green Leader. So this is not a be-all and end-all list. This is what our current plan is. And this is certainly subject to change until we get there and we're all dialed in. But I'm pulling up our map right now so that I can tell you. And this is the current plan. We've recently kind of had a change in a couple of the states back east that we're going to be a part of it. So Freeshof will likely take an eastern portion of Canada, the farthest east portion of Canada. We'll see. It's certainly going to be Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And it will also be Potato Europe. And Tomato Europe will stay a part of the Thorshof district. And for purposes of this, because I know it gets split depending on where you're looking, we're going to consider France as part of Tomato Europe and not Potato Europe, though I know that's not definitive across that country. Trying to look over the side and see if we have any other questions, but I think that's what we've got for tonight. Justin, thank you so much for joining us and for talking about Ulvir. This is the first time we've had somebody present one of our heroes that we've actually got questions about that hero, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, Justin.
Yeah, not a problem. My pleasure.
Also, thank you for the work you're doing folk building down in Texas. If anybody wants to reach Justin, it's jday, Jday, at runestone.org. And Justin would be very happy to get you guys set up and answer any questions and get people involved in the Lone Star State. All right, folks. Well, it's been fun talking to you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate so many of you being part of this every single week and making this happen. It's one of the highlights of my week, something I look forward to. So until next time, hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA, and remember that victory never sleeps.
Hail.